Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we live in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful November 23rd, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I think my neighbors knew what I was going to do the other night when I came down and got one of them turkeys.
Oh, yeah?
Because it's left me kind of sluggish for the past couple of days. I think they might have been feeding some NyQuil or some sleeping pills or something.
NyQuil turkey dressing always goes good. Tryptophan is what a lot of people call it out down south, Big C. So much happening in the sports universe on a beautiful, happy, is it Happy Friday or is it Black Family? I thought it was Happy Friday, but when I heard it's called Black Family, Trump actually wanted to cancel Black Friday, Big C, because he thought it was paying homage to those S-hole countries. So hopefully someone can tell that Black families for shopping, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, he'll say that he was the reason for the effect on the economy.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's amazing how devoid that your president is of what goes in America. That This is the biggest spending day of the year. I mean, it's always been this way, Charlton. It has helped the economy of many markets and retailers, and it gives families a great opportunity to save some money on early holiday shopping, Charlton, fulfill a lot of children and adults' needs.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Trump, when you find out it's called Black Friday, it is about having a positive, red line, Big C. He wants to change it to, he's petitioning Congress to name it White Friday, because that's just how he gets down, Big C.
Well, he'll probably be trying to put in an executive order called it Orange Friday, because as orange as he gets it. And I know that's not natural skin color, and I don't know who he thinks he's fooling.
That's
with that triple layer comb over that he has on top of his head, you either shave it off or put on a wig. I guess he would become one of the original founding fathers if he put a wig on.
Yeah, that's funny. It's all fair and love of war. Man, I had so much food. I kind of felt bad because watching the news, you hear about how many turkeys are being consumed. It's like, can't we all become vegetarian, Big C? That's what the turkeys are starting to, turkeys are getting smart now because they're being fed with those growth hormones that make them think smarter too. Turkeys are passing petitions that we all become vegetarians on Thanksgiving, so we'll see how well that passes the White House. You know what it is, Big C? It's Friday Night Lights. I know the high school teams all over this great country, they're getting ready for high school football. They're in the playoffs for most people all around the country, and Big C's Friday Night Lights, we like to honor the top high school football teams of the country. Number one, St. John Bosco, Bellflower, California. Number two, Mater Dei, Santa Ana, California. They will play each other this weekend in California to decide the Southern California Championship, Big C. Both of these programs have been the last two defending state champions. Mater Dei defending national champion. Number three, St. Francis Academy, Baltimore, Maryland. Number four, IMG Academy out of Bradenton, Florida. Their season's complete. Number five, Big C, St. Louis, Honolulu, Hawaii. A team on the island, that's where Tua came from. How can Hawaii, being a small island, have the top 5 ranked high school football team in the country, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I guess you look at they dominate the state as much as anything else. But every now and then they get a road game tossed in. And when you talk about a road game, that's a minimum of 3,000 miles that you have to travel.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. But they have produced some great football programs, St. Louis, Honolulu, Hawaii. They actually play their state championship games in Honolulu over at the University of Hawaii Stadium, where the Aloha Bowl is, Big C. So good luck to everybody. Number 6, Colquitt County, Norman Park, Georgia. Number 7, Centennial, Corona, California. Number 8, Colleran High School of Cincinnati, Ohio. Number 9, De La Salle, Concord, California. And then number 10, Oaks Christian out of Westlake Village, California. That's Big C Sports Friday Night Lights. Big C, what advice would you give high school kids, especially trying to play a playoff game when you have so much tryptophan in your system, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they got to stay off the turkey. Make sure they eat the sweet potato casserole. That's what they want to do. They want some starch and they want some sugar in the system, Charlton. They're going to get it all taken care of with that. And make sure that you get hydrated. I mean, it's that time of the year, even though it's cold, those young guys, Charlton, need to understand that you're still going to perspire and lose some body fluids.
Yeah.
And number one, Charlton, stay safe.
Stay safe. That's very true. Everybody, please stay safe. Big C loves to honor Friday Night Lights, high school football for all the good old boys all over the country. We have a new announcement on Big C Sports today. For all the people, we want to thank you for all of your contributions for helping victims and firefighters in California. I think the storms are about 95% out now. Been a lot of rain, a lot of snow in Northern California. So we want to thank all of our firefighters and our emergency responders, making sure that people can recover nicely. But Big C, I want to also say, for you, you know, there's been a kind of a close contest. We know the elections just passed, but I want to congratulate Big C for being named. You've been voted the sexiest man in the universe, Big C. And this is no easy task. Big C beat out Boris Kodjoe, Tyson Beckford, Michael B. Jordan, Prince Harry, The Rock, and also Donald Trump and Clint Eastwood. Big C, how did Donald Trump get on the list? And Donald Trump's claiming voter obstruction. He thinks that Big C got too many votes from those asshole countries. Big C, can you give me some thoughts on that?
Well, you know, Trump tried to pull an executive order saying that, you know, this is unfair. And he wanted to reach out. That's the thing that I didn't get. You know, he said that some people were going out, Charlton, get to their car, putting on hats and changing their shirts, and coming back in, voting a second time.
Yes.
And he wasn't put on the second ballot. So, you know, when I think about that, you talk about sore losers, Charlton. And I think it made him turn red.
That's funny. He was so bad he wanted to cancel Black Friday, which is also a good thing for the country. I just think that's incredible. So Big C, congratulations. The top prize for being voted the most sexiest man in the universe is $520 million. So Big C, what are you going to do now that you have an extra $520 million? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think I might go to Disneyland. And just go around the park and ride everything. That way I won't have to wait in line this time.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. So congratulations for that. It's all fair in love and war. I do want to say before we get into a few things, for the holidays, sometimes you can only eat so much food. And I know people who are grateful. And also we think about those who had nothing. Maybe they lost their possessions, or, you know, lost loved ones, and our hearts, you know, bleeds, and we pray for you. We want to add some levity to it also, because we know sometimes it's about what you have in front of you, not what's behind, even though we'll never forget. I want to just say one of the better movies, Big C, that a lot of people can go out and do things that, you know, make them ease their mind. Creed 2 is a movie that I like for Big C Sports. Looking at Creed 2, Sylvester Stallone, he returns in the role of Rocky Balboa, mentoring the son of Apollo Creed, Michael B. Jordan, who must face off against a new opponent in theaters November 21st. So it's out over the weekend. A lot of people loving the movie. But I know even Michael B. Jordan, he's a little bit upset that he did not win the most sexiest man in the universe, coming in second and third place to Big C. Big C, your thoughts to Michael B. Jordan, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think in this movie he might go out there and score a knockout. Just by being a little put off by coming in not in first place in this race. But, you know, I can't appease everybody.
Right.
You know, I'm selfish when it comes to look.
Yeah.
And I want to corner the market on my good look. Matter of fact, we're going to put some of it in a bottle.
Yeah, that's good. I think ZZ Top performed for the sexiest man in the universe, and it says the girls crazy about a chocolate man. So Big C, you can tell I had a lot of sweets over the holidays. I feel very happy. But thinking about that movie, and you think about the great actors in it, as far as, you know, Creed 2. I think about Sylvester Stallone and what he's done. He's been in movies like, of course, there's been 6 versions of Rocky, and I remember seeing that as a young boy in the Apollo Creed fighting Ivan Drago, the Russian. And obviously the Russians knew nothing about steroids, so that was a clean fight, Big C. But also, you think of Demolition Man, Tango and Cash, the Cliffhanger. There's a lot of things. I think he was also... No, he wasn't in
the Rambo series.
The Rambo series too. So, and then when you have Michael B. Jordan, he's been, of course, star of the Black Panther, and then he's also part of Fruitvale, which is actually out of Oakland, California, and we all saw that, and just a lot more things on the box office. Give me your thoughts about the history of acting when you look at Sylvester Stallone and Michael B. Jordan. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at guys who come up through the bottom of the ranks, who earn themselves to have recognition in the box office, they didn't come in at the top. They had to work their through. I mean, Rocky's was Stallone's big, catapult into stardom, Charlton.
Yep.
A movie that he wrote and directed and acted in.
Yeah.
But to make a franchise out of that, Charlton, and then come along with the Rambo series, he's been one of those action hero type fighters, Charlton, that the average layman person could get behind.
Yeah.
And when you look at the fantasy world of Hollywood, I mean, there's so much in that industry that make people want to be involved in it.
Yeah.
But when you see somebody who works themselves up through the ranks, who was not privileged when they got into it, so many young actors, Charlton, get that nepotism ride into stardom. But when you have to work your way through the ranks like Michael B. Jordan has done, Charlton, having the name Michael Jordan hasn't hurt at all.
Don't hurt.
But, to have that opportunity to reach the pinnacle of success in a hard-fought industry, because there's more people that have failed in that industry than have ever succeeded, Charlton.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think, one thing about Sylvester Stallone, I think he even had to sell his dog at a time when he was trying to make his movie happen. And this is about believing your dream. He was broke. He had to sell his dog. And there were people who came and they offered him money to change or have somebody else be him, be Rocky. But he stuck to what he believed was his inner self, his true self, Big C, and he refused to allow someone to do that. And I just want to get your thoughts. There's a lot of young people right now, just like we are. People want to know, what do you want to be in life? How do you want to end up when you cross that finish line? And then Sylvester Stallone could have taken the money and let someone else play him. He didn't have the Hollywood looks. He didn't have what Hollywood wanted. What message do you think he translates to other people who have a dream, and they say, you live your dream, don't let somebody else tell your story? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's really the story of perseverance in life. I mean, and you can see that in all aspects of life, whether it's just in the normal work walk, you see it in athletics every day. But when you talk about his story in Hollywood, being able to feel something that he had from within, that he knew how this character should play out emotionally, because it was he had wrote the story, Charlton. But it's about anybody keeping faith in whatever you do, and not giving up. I mean, Jim Valvano said it best. The late North Carolina State coach, Charlton, that beat Houston in the '83 NCAA championship when he was battling with cancer that has taken the lives of so many great people, Charlton, around the world. He said, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. And that applies to every aspect of life, Charlton.
Yeah.
You see people fighting through things. We who have it decent, Charlton, think about going through life every day and not thinking about much. But there's so many people, Charlton, that don't have opportunities, don't have hope. We talk about the gluttony that goes on during the Thanksgiving holiday, not just with the food, but on Black Friday, people going out spending.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, Charlton, that don't have. And they don't give up, Charlton. They keep the faith in trying to survive and strive for whatever they can in life. I went out Thanksgiving evening. I went out and passed out some meals, Charlton. I went to my pantry and took some things out. And I knew where a lot of homeless people would be. And I took these bags and handed it out, Charlton. It's not much, but I knew that they would not be hungry for Thanksgiving. Those few people that I was able to provide for, Charlton, that gives them hope not to give up, to know that they're going to at least survive with a full belly at least one more day.
Yeah, that's always true. So hopefully when there's so much food out there, and I know a lot of grocery stores, they'll give money to food banks, and they'll do whatever they can to pass things out. So hopefully everybody can have that in their heart. And again, for Thanksgiving, I'm very grateful for family. I'm very grateful for health and being able to just share, nice thoughts with people. And sometimes people you don't see every now and then, but to say I'm wishing everybody well, especially this great country of ours. I hope that everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend, and we know it's extended going into the weekday. So I want to say congratulations to everybody. Big C, I want to touch on some things that happened in the NFL. Then we'll jump into some college football and get Big C's predictions. But for the Thanksgiving Day, football season, it's great when you have some great games that we had. Thanksgiving Day, Chicago, they beat Detroit. And then you had Dallas beating Washington. New Orleans, they had a great win over Atlanta. And that dome down south was just amazing. It's amazing just to see the excitement and the dome down in New Orleans. But I want to take you back to Chicago, and I want to take you to Detroit. That was a game where Chicago's defense stepped up and they won. But there's so much about being grateful Just give me your thoughts on how you feel Chicago. I mean, they're a dominant team now, Big C, up there in their division. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're dominating that North Central Division, Charlton, of the NFL. The monsters of the Midway are back.
Yep.
You know, they were able to go in with a backup quarterback, Chase Daniel, who has a lot of NFL experience, Charlton. But they went in and they took it to the Detroit Lions, Charlton, on the road.
Yeah.
This is a team of destiny in that division. You know, they basically solidified themselves a playoff position, Charlton, because the second-place team in that division, the third-place team, got eliminated this week between Green Bay and Minnesota.
Yeah.
So it leaves them, as long as they can stay healthy, Chicago, Mr. Trubisky, it was good for them to be able to give him a game off, Charlton, with a slight shoulder injury to rest him, and to have a veteran backup to Chase Daniels. But that defense keeps coming through in Chicago. Offense will always get notoriety, but people have a tendency to forget on how great a defense is when their opponent is not scoring.
Yeah, you think about Chicago 23, Detroit 16. Matthew Stafford, 236 yards. The rushing leader was LeGarrette Blount with 88 yards, and the receiving leader was Kenny Galladay with 90. But Chicago, again, they're a very good team, going to be very difficult. If anyone has to go to Chicago during the playoffs, that's a tough place to win when it gets so cold. Washington at Dallas, that's a game where, now this is just my opinion, everybody has one, but I felt that Troy Aikman was being so biased in his play call of that win that Dallas had. 31-23, the Redskins had a late score to come back, but at the time they were down like 31-13. But he kept trying to pick at Prescott and just trying to say, well, Prescott's missing the pass and they don't have a downfield game, and maybe it's because they both played for the Cowboys. Prescott finished 289 yards, Ezekiel Elliott 121 yards, and Amari Cooper, 180 yards? Why did Oakland let him go? But give me your thoughts. I know everybody has their own style, but I thought Troyman was being harsh on Prescott, but when he won, he didn't give him praise, he gave Dallas praise. It's just a little slight that I noticed. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at that whole Dallas team in totality, there's a lot of things that they need to improve on.
Yeah.
I mean, Prescott has gotten better since Amari Cooper has arrived.
Of course, yeah.
You know, his yards per game has increased rather. And you also look at Ezekiel Elliott, Charlton. You know, here's a guy that in the last 3 games has gained 394 yards rushing on the ground. It's really helped upgrade this Dallas offense.
Yeah.
But a lot of that, Charlton, comes from the play calling or the improper play calling that they used to have.
Yeah.
They still haven't utilized Cooper as much as they should. When you talk about him having 190 yards receiving, 90 of that came on a hitch pass, Charlton, where he had to run after the catch. He had another 40-yard touchdown, Charlton. It was a real quick slant pass.
Yeah.
So you take 130 of those yards, Charlton, and bundle them into 2 plays.
Yeah.
But this offense, you know, Dak Prescott, he can be as successful as he wants as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
He'll always be compared to Troy Aikman, just like Troy Aikman was compared to Roger Staubach.
Yeah.
When you're in an organization, Charlton, that has had winning quarterbacks in the past, that have had championship quarterback past, you're going to always look at that scenario. In San Francisco, Colin Kaepernick was compared to Steve Young and Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Because they had been to Super Bowls. Even though they had been half a dozen quarterbacks in between, you know, Kaepernick and Young.
Yeah.
That's what the benchmark was, Charlton. You know, the thing about when you look at Dak Prescott, here's a guy who is 26-5 as a starting quarterback when he doesn't turn over the football.
Yeah.
26-5. He doesn't get enough credit for that from the league or even the broadcasters when they look at that, Charlton.
Yeah.
They say, wow, if they don't turn the ball over. And all of the times that a quarterback turns over a ball, it's not his fault.
No.
You know, they'll have tip passes, Charlton. The ball will be stripped from them, and, you know, they're going to have better ball control in those situations.
Yeah.
But just his record without having the ball turned over as Dallas quarterback is 26-5.
Yeah.
But he has a winning record as a Dallas quarterback, and no one gives him credit for that.
No.
He won 13 games as a rookie.
Yep.
He won nine games in his second year, Charlton. He's won 5 games this year.
Yeah.
So when you look at all of what he's done as a quarterback with the Dallas Cowboys, Charlton, having 27 wins in less than 3 seasons, not many quarterbacks in the NFL can equal that in their first 3 seasons.
That's a very good point, Big C. I really, and you only hear that on Big C Sports. And he also rushed for a touchdown, and he got out of I think he broke 3 tackles down by the goal line. You just don't get that out of quarterbacks, but he did it. And it's not because he's a great athlete. He's a great football player. When you surround him, if he had Harper and Irvin and Ibis Smith and Novacek and the Moose, I'm sure he would have the same kind of numbers that Troy Aikman had. But that's just my outside opinion looking in. Atlanta at New Orleans. There's something about that New Orleans crowd. I don't know if anyone could go down there and beat them. Not in that dome. 31-17 over Atlanta. It was a bigger win than that, really, but Atlanta was closing the gap. Atlanta also had some turnovers inside the red zone, being fair to the Falcons also. Matt Ryan, 377 yards passing. Alvin Kamara, 89 yards rushing. Julio Jones is a stud, but they were really all over Julio Jones. Had 147 receiving yards. Big C, give me your thoughts on that game.
Well, Charlton, I think about the quarterbacks that you just talked about. You think about Dak Prescott and how maligned he was. No one maligned Matt Ryan in that game, Charlton, for having multiple turnovers as the Atlanta quarterback. Fumbling the ball, throwing interceptions, Charlton. Even though his teammates fumbled the ball also. But Matt Ryan has lost 3 consecutive games, Charlton.
Yep.
Making $155 million on his latest contract that he signed.
Yeah.
His team only has 4 victories. You look at how that's handled through the press versus it is with Dak Prescott. Matt Ryan has never had a season where he's won more games than Dak Prescott did as a rookie. Think about that. But he was warranted with a $155 million contract at the start of this season.
Yeah.
And his team has responded with only 4 wins with him at quarterback. You know, it comes from leadership. A lot of people are going to start saying, well, it's the play calling. Well, it's been the play calling in Dallas also.
Yeah.
But nobody's ever blamed the offensive coordinator in Dallas. In Atlanta, they blame Steve Sarkisian as the play call. Matthew Stafford was in the first game that you spoke about against Chicago.
Yep.
When you think about Chase Daniels, Charlton, that was only the second NFL game he ever started for Chicago.
Yeah.
That Turkey Day game in Detroit.
Yep.
Matthew Stafford, $135 million quarterback, Charlton. 4 wins on the season.
Yeah.
And couldn't be the guy who's only started 1 time in his NFL career. So when you think about how the money is spent and how the scrutiny is given to certain players in the NFL, why aren't the guys who are making all the money in the NFL? And you think about the top 8 elitist quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, your cousin in Minnesota.
He's not my cousin.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
These guys all guaranteed, Charlton, making $40 million this year.
Yeah.
$40 million.
Yep.
And they can't put together 15 victories between all of them, Charlton.
No. And that's a shame. Now, I want to just touch on that one more time because this is Black Friday. That means you have a profit. So if you're paying somebody that kind of money, why are their teams struggling, but you don't have the same type of pushback that you have against a guy in Prescott who's winning? And really, for the second season, or the second game, he really has you could say, well, you got to say a first-round wide receiver picked in Cooper, a guy that can go the distance. I mean, he didn't have that all season long, but I just want to say that's important. And again, if you can mention the money one more time, how do they justify the Black Friday payoffs that they're giving these guys that are losing, Stafford and Ryan, etc.? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's because they're a prototypical-looking NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of talk. How do you make Prescott a max salary quarterback? So if Dallas ends up winning the NFC East, Charlton, they're going to have a tough battle next week against New Orleans, and so their winning streak may come to an end like everybody else who goes to New Orleans.
Yeah.
How do you justify making him a max salary quarterback? You know, your cousin, Kirk Cousins in Minnesota.
He's not my cousin.
Hasn't won 10 games in one NFL season.
No.
Not one. 10 has not won 10 games in one NFL season. But he was guaranteed $84 million.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott, I said 2 years ago, Charlton, had 13 wins as a rookie.
Yep.
And people are saying, well, it's hard to give him $20 million a year.
Yeah.
How is it hard to give him $20 million a year? Matt Ryan, it just came off of a 10-win season, got 55 million?
Yeah, 155.
Aaron Rodgers came off of he didn't even play the whole season. He was hurt.
Yeah.
But he got $187 million. Jimmy Garoppolo started 5 games with San Francisco last year, so got $137 million.
Wow.
Matthew Stafford has made the playoffs once in his 8-year NFL career. Once.
Google it.
And he's making $35 million this year.
Yeah.
So when you say it's hard to justify paying Matthew Stafford for, being a winning quarterback, having 27 wins in less than 3 seasons.
Yeah, and Prescott. Yeah.
It's hard to justify paying him.
Yeah.
It's just like when Colin Kaepernick is just a year away from a Super Bowl appearance and an NFC Championship appearance, saying, well, we want you to take a pay cut.
Yeah.
So being a successful black quarterback in the NFL does not always, attribute to having a big contract, Jonathan, if you're a white losing quarterback.
And I would love our white brethren, when the media guys that do the games, whether it's Aikman, whether it's Al Michaels, whether it's, anybody that's doing it, Collinsworth, they should talk about that, because the fans are not dumb, but really look into your soul and ask, why do you downplay an African-American guy who's won more games than guys making 10 times what he's making? I mean, just do that, and so people can realize how honest you are. Big C, I do want to also say, because we love you so much in Canada, our home and native land, we have the Grey Cup, the championship, the Canadian Football League's version of the Super Bowl, but it's been around a lot longer than the Super Bowl. The Ottawa Red Blacks, the Calgary Stampeders, and that game will be played up in Canada for the champions of the Canadian Football League. Big C, they've been doing football a long time in Canada. We talked about it before. Their football field is longer. Their football field is wider. Now, I don't hear the issues of CTE as much. You got to have a lot of speed to play in the CFL. There are a lot of players that have played in Canada and come to the United States and had great success. And maybe not always the other way around, though, Big C, because you got to have more team speed up there. Just give me your thoughts on the Grey Cup for the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Calgary Stampeders. Canadians' final football game for this 2018 season. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you can talk about a couple of great quarterbacks that have come from Canada and played here in the U.S. The first Canadian Football League quarterback to play in a Super Bowl was Joe Kapp with the Minnesota Vikings. He had played with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Canada. Yeah. We all know of the exploits of the great Warren Moon, who had 5 consecutive championships up there, even though he never made a Super Bowl here in the U.S.
Yeah.
We had Doug Flutie, who won a Heisman Trophy, who went to Canada and had much success, won 5 championships himself up there, Charlton, prior to coming back to the NFL and getting a starting job in Buffalo and San Diego, Charlton, before finishing his career in New England. There's been many other players. Cameron Wake, the great defensive end of the Miami Dolphins, played in the Canadian Football League, Charlton, but there's been a great host of players over the years that have come down here and find success. And I guess their championship game would be called the Ice Bowl, right? I think that's what they ought to call it. Because, it's cold here, and I'm not up in Canada, but I know it's cold up there.
Yeah, it's cold up there, so hopefully they'll have a great Cup, and the weather will hold up for them, their fans, and all the great players that work so hard up there. Big C, I want to cover on, we're going to do the NFL first, and then we'll finish out with some NBA and some college football or anything else on your mind in the sports universe. I do want to say, because we love the game so much, and I know NFL football is right now starting to make a lot of sense for a lot of people. I want to just get your thoughts as we get into this weekend coming up. Jacksonville is at Buffalo. Jacksonville's had think of how close they were to the Super Bowl last year. They had the lead 10 points going into the fourth quarter against the Patriots. So now they're at Buffalo. It's a 10 a.m. kickoff on CBS Sports at New Era Field. Give me your thoughts on Jacksonville. We know Buffalo's struggling, but what's happened to the Jacksonville Jaguars? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Jacksonville had Pittsburgh down again last week, Charlton. They're down, 19-7.
Yeah.
And ended up giving up the goat at the end of that game, Charlton, where Ben Roethlisberger able to bring the Steelers back.
Yeah.
But this is a game, Charlton, I didn't expect that much this year from Jacksonville. Everybody talked about they were, a series away. No, I didn't, because you and I, if you go back when we started the season here in the NFL this season, Charlton, on our broadcast, I talked about Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you have confidence in a quarterback that's crying?
Yeah.
And I understand quarterbacks and players crying with passion, Charlton, based on success.
Yeah.
Achieving something. But crying because you're losing and you still have a chance to get your hands on the ball, Charlton, but you're on the sideline crying, that shows me that he didn't have the heart or the ability to guide a team. They started off the season hot, Charlton. Their defense was playing great. But Blake Bortles came back to being Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
You know, he tricked everybody last year.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
He tricked Jacksonville so much they gave him a 3-year extension on his contract.
Wow.
But he came back, and he was what I thought he was, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was a quarterback that plays in the NFL that's inadequate. I mean, I look at him in the same line as I look at Nathan Peterman.
Yeah.
And think about it. Nathan Peterman got a tryout from the Detroit Lions last week.
Wow.
Buffalo cut him after throwing more interceptions in his career than touchdowns and games played combined. Okay?
Wow.
And Buffalo cut him 2 weeks ago, and it should have been a farce that he was in the NFL from the start.
Yeah.
Not knocking any player, but he was a joke.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The Detroit Lions gave him a tryout.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call.
Yep, we know that's true, Big C. Cleveland at Cincinnati, 10 a.m. to kickoff. CBS Sports, Paul Brown Stadium, Cincinnati, Ohio. This game is really important for the Bengals, Big C. They've been up and down, and they've been a front runner for the first part of the season. Now they've really got to play better football, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a team that's fighting for their playoff life.
Yeah.
They've had a couple back-to-back tough losses, Charlton, that have put them on that borderline of making the playoffs. They can't afford to go 5-6 and hope to make the playoffs, Charlton, because the Steelers have gotten hot in that division.
Yeah.
They got to be able to keep pace with them, Charlton. They desperately need this week and this win against Cleveland.
Yeah, that's very good, Big C. New England Patriots at the New York Jets at 10 a.m. kickoff, CBS Sports, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. A game where New England will start to find their stride. Obviously, they're running into a Jets team that has no match for them. It's just about, can New England play consistent, or will they have a drop of performance that they had a drop when they played Jacksonville, also when they lost to mighty Detroit? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is one of those games where the Jets are going to be playing their backup quarterback in McCown.
Yeah.
Brady hasn't practiced much this week because of some type of illness.
Yeah.
But this is a game, Charlton, that if you're in New England, this is the team that you want to see in the Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets haven't been able to muster much all year long. This is a game that New England should just win outright. Don't even worry about a spread.
Yep, that's a good point, Big C. Will Eli Manning go 4 in a row? The New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year's Super Bowl champion. That's a 10 a.m. kickoff on Fox Sports at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. What happened to the great Carson Wentz? He was supposed to be the new Ron Jaworski that was going to lead the Eagles to the promised land. But last year they decided they didn't want to have success that took him to the Super Bowl last year. So they put him back in as a starter, and he has not had the success that they wanted him to have, Big C. They're going to say it's somebody else's fault, but he's the guy that they named their prodigal quarterback, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, he's had that sophomore slump in his third year, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, but the reality of Philadelphia is that without the tools, Carson Wentz is just a pedestrian quarterback.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the running game that he had in his sophomore season, Charlton, with Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount, who had a great game yesterday in Detroit running the ball for the Lions.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that support. His receiving core is not what it was. They lost one of their tight ends, Trey Burton, who's having an outstanding season in Chicago.
Yeah.
And we saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
But, you know, the offensive line has not performed. They spent a lot of time in the off-season party, led by Lane Johnson. They're right off at the tackle.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he went out and dogged himself, and now the team is paying the price for it, Charlton. They haven't been able to protect the quarterback. They haven't been able to establish a running game. It's amazing when you run your mouth off of one day of success.
Yep.
You got to do that repeatedly. You think about the teams who consistently win championships, Charlton.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of bragging. They just go out and play.
They just go out and play, Big C. The San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 10 a.m. kickoff on Fox Sports at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. This is a game where you have Winston and Fitzpatrick. Who knows who's going to be the leader for that team? I don't know if they'll have both quarterbacks here next year. And in San Francisco, Garoppolo still hasn't called the ownership and said, you know what, guys? If I gave up my contract, or at least restructured my contract, then the 49ers would have a better chance of winning. He still has a chance to make that phone call, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're going to have to live and die with Dan Mullen. You know, Nick Mullen, rather, the young kid, the free agent out of Mississippi State.
Yeah.
You know, not Mississippi, Southern Mississippi.
Southern Miss, yeah.
You know, can he outdo whatever Tampa Bay plays at quarterback? You think about that receiving core that they have in Tampa Bay, Charlton, of Evans, of Jackson, you know, and O.J. Howard at tight end. But this is a team that can't produce any points. They move the ball well between the 20s, but they're interception prone in the red zone. Jameis Winston, every time he comes into a game, he's competing with Eli Manning for leading the league in interceptions during that time. So, this is a team, as you talk about, those quarterbacks that they have, they need to part ways with those, make some changes, because none of them are getting the job done. The head coach is gone in Tampa when the season is over because he chose to keep those quarterbacks. But this is a game in reality, Charlton. Does anybody care about it other than those local fans from those two cities?
That's a very good point, Big C. This is a game coming up that everybody should care about in the NFC. The Seattle Seahawks at the Carolina Panthers. At 10 a.m. kickoff on Fox Sports at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. I look at Wilson and I look at Newton. Both have been Super Bowl quarterbacks, and Wilson could have two, but that they didn't hand the beast mode, so that's in the past. But when I look at something's up with Cam, that incompletion that he had in the game in Detroit of all places when they went for two, he just doesn't seem like he's firing on all cylinders. I know people make light of maybe he's seen stars or he's not motivated, but he seems like he could be a better player. He could go to a next level, but for some reason he just hasn't yet. Big C, your thoughts?
I looked at Cam and watched him throughout his career. One of the things that I look at Cam with is this: he seems too laid back at times, Charlton. Is that he lacks intensity. I look at a lot of quarterbacks, Charlton, with their moxie as far as moving towards the line of scrimmage. How they're commanding the offense.
Some urgency.
Cam is almost like he's at a house party. Leaning back, in a recliner. I would like to see Cam put a little more tempo in the Carolina offense. Is that he doesn't ever seem to have a sense of urgency, Charlton, even in a 2-minute warning. He doesn't have that sense of urgency. And I go back to when he was in college, when he ran a high-tempo offense, Charlton, where they moved the ball quickly, a lot of no-huddle and all of that. And then when he came to the NFL, it was almost like he's posing for a poster every time he's standing there. It's like, pick up the tempo a little bit. He's too great an athlete and a quarterback, Charlton, to play at such a slow pace. When he has a sense of urgency about him, you'll see the difference in Cam. If you go back to his MVP season, you'll see that the tempo of the Carolina offense was much greater than what it is now. It's almost like he's sitting back to let the game come to me instead of taking the game to itself. But both of these teams, Charlton, are fighting for a wild card berth. Neither one of them are going to catch the division leaders. Carolina's chasing New Orleans. The Seahawks are chasing the Rams. They're both bet is to hope for a wild card berth.
That's true, Big C. I do want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. Big C, more games as we run down the NFL. Big C Sports NFL preview. We have the Oakland Raiders and at the Baltimore Ravens at 10 a.m. kickoff on CBS Sports at AT&T, actually M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. The Raiders really have nothing to play for if Gruden says his goal is to trade all the number one draft picks. And look at guys that were drafted number one that are having big games, whether it's Mack on defense or Cooper on offense. I think Carr will be out of their next Big C. But the Raiders can't afford to win if they want to keep Gruden's plan, and I'm sure Baltimore is more encouraged to win anyway. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Lamar Jackson is going to get his second start for the Ravens in consecutive games, Charlton. Last week, the Cincinnati Bengals fell to him. So the thing about the Ravens is they can't keep risking Jackson's health running him all the time, Charlton. He's playing against the Raiders, a team that really don't have a solidified pass rush. This is where they need to work on his passing ability in the game, Charlton, more than running the ball. The Raiders, as you say, they have nothing to play for. If they win the game, it's almost like they're hurting themselves. But they also hurt the NFL, talking about not being competitive. And they hurt the city of Las Vegas. They're talking about going there. Their lease is up in Oakland. If Oakland said, we don't want to lease you the stadium, where will they play next year?
And they're trying to force that, too, by just doing some things that are anathema to the way Al Davis built that great organization. The Arizona Cardinals at the L.A. Chargers. I still want to say San Diego with the Chargers Lightning Bolts, a 1:05 kickoff on Fox Sports Big C. Now, that's at that's a game that the StubHub Center in Carson, California. But I know that the Chargers are a team that were flying high just a couple of weeks ago in the AFC. I think they still are, but I just you cannot have a team like Arizona come in there. Maybe if they do, what do you guys do to the Turkeys that don't want to go easily? You shock them, Big C. Your thoughts?
So, Charlton, they lost that last second game to Denver last week to save Coach Lynn's job for another week in Denver.
Yeah.
But I don't see that same reprieve with Arizona. You know, they knew that they had the Broncos down.
Yeah.
They're going to get up on top of the Cardinals, Charlton, and not slow down offensively. You have to keep it going. In the NFL, when you figure that you can back down, and people always say, well, it seems like somebody's running up the score.
Yeah.
You have to, because the team that's behind it is going to keep trying to score.
Yep, that's a very good point. Speaking of scoring, this is big for Big Ben. Big Ben at Denver, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos. That's a 1:25 p.m. kickoff on CBS Sports. It's at Broncos Stadium at Mile High in Denver. And this is a game where, you know, Denver really is not going anywhere this year either. But there's something about the altitude. Pittsburgh's not always finding it easy going up Mile High, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Denver proved last week with the Chargers, Charlton, that they're not going to give up on a game.
Yep.
And they came from behind and beat the second-best team, you know, in the AFC West.
Yeah.
In the Chargers. And you got Pittsburgh coming in off a hard-fought win versus Jacksonville last week, Charlton, where they squeaked it out with less than 30 seconds to go in the game.
Yeah.
Denver will be a hard-fought opponent. It's going to be cold. You're going to be up at the altitude. And they got a great pass rush. James Conner had a concussion, Charlton.
Yeah.
Will they have a running game to slow down that Denver pass rush?
Well, that's an important game to watch, especially if you're Pittsburgh. Miami Dolphins at Indianapolis Colts, a 1:25 p.m. kickoff on CBS Sports. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Big C. And people could talk about Luck having a lot of bad luck in the last couple of years, but I think Luck has really turned around the luck of the Indianapolis Colts, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, the Miami Dolphins are going to have Ryan Tannehill starting this game, Charlton. He hasn't started a game in 6 weeks. And so I don't know how crisp he's going to be.
Yeah.
This Indianapolis Colts defense has been playing extremely well, Charlton, the past month. Andrew Luck is one of the top 5 passers this year in the NFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
He has a great set of tight ends that he can get the ball to. The running game is coming along, and his offensive line is maturing. The Miami Dolphins just haven't had any momentum the last month, Charlton. You know, but with your buddy Osweiler playing quarterback, we'll see if they can kickstart it with Tannehill getting back in the lineup.
Yeah, well, maybe they can kickstart it, Big C, or they kickstart those Sea-Doos down on the coast of Florida when the playoffs start. Green Bay at Minnesota. That used to be a game that determined who would win the division. Still important in Minnesota. Green Bay seems to be out of it. A 5:20 p.m. kickoff on NBC Sports, U.S. Bank Stadium, Minneapolis. Gorgeous stadium. Do the Vikings have enough to keep running? Because they got to keep winning because the Bears keep winning, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the Vikings was 12-4 last year, Charlton. Won that division, went to the NFC title game.
Yeah.
Then they decided that the quarterbacks that they had on the roster weren't good enough. So they went out and signed your cousin.
He's not my cousin.
Gave him $84 million guaranteed.
I'll take it.
They've already lost more games, Charlton, than they lost all of last season.
Yeah.
And they paid $84 million to do that. And so everybody's looking for excuses other than your cousin with the Vikings. You think about it. Aaron Rodgers, $187 million.
Yeah.
Your cousin, $84 million.
He's not my cousin.
and what are we? We're in the 10th week of the NFL season, Charlton?
Yeah.
And they haven't won a combined 10 games.
Wow, what a bargain. What a bargain, Big C. Money talks, but sometimes the win talks even more. I want to jump to Monday night matchup, Tennessee, which is up and down, at Houston, which has been playing some good football, a 5:15 p.m. kickoff on ESPN, and that's at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Texans, this is a team that they look like they could do something in the AFC, but they're going to have to win this game at least over an up and down Tennessee. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they've won 6 consecutive games, but they're going to be playing with a heavy heart in this game. The owner of the Houston Texans, Bob McNair, passed away today. 81 years of age. And so when you think about a team that was on the rise, Charlton, that had started the season losing its first 3 games, today they lost their owner, who brought professional football back to Houston after the Oilers had left and gone to Tennessee.
Wow.
He had a new stadium built down there, Charlton. He built an organization up, Charlton, has been very competitive. So this Houston Texans team, Charlton, led by Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and their defense has been playing lights out, led by Merciless, Watts, and Clowning.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to have much motivation. I know they'll be hurting because of the loss of their owner, Charlton, but this Tennessee Titans team, 1 week they'll go out and score 35 points. Next week, Charlton, they get 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
I see Houston dominating the game in honor of the late McNair.
Yeah, well, our thoughts and prayers are definitely with the McNair family, and may you all just keep your heads up through this holiday season. Big C, I do want to close out and a few more sports to report with the college football is big. I know it's kind of like championship weekend coming up this weekend. We'll just run through a couple of things that are happening in the world of the college football. And, you know, everybody has their opinion about who is going to win what. But before we get into some games that have a lot of importance, I want to just get your thoughts on the USC and Notre Dame game. That's the game. I mean, Hilton's probably out at USC whether they win or lose, but this is his fight song, if you can make any sense out of that. Notre Dame wins this game. They're on to the college football national championship picture. But this game for USC, what does Lynn Swann want to see? I think Hilton's gone anyway, but I just want to get your thoughts. Notre Dame can't afford to drop it, even though it's going to be at the Coliseum. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, this is a game I don't see Notre Dame being challenged whatsoever, Dalton. When we look at the talent level between the two teams, Notre Dame has a much better talent level than what USC does.
Yeah.
USC has been a team that's been in disarray all year long.
Yeah.
They've lost some key players to injury. They've played a freshman quarterback that has been completely inconsistent, Charlton. But when I look at the athleticism of Notre Dame and what they have on the line this week, Charlton, along with the rivalry and the history of hatred between these two programs, you don't want to give a team an opportunity to break you from having the success that you've had all year long, especially if they're not a dominant team, Charlton.
Yeah.
And we saw how they went out and handled business against Syracuse last week, which is a much better team than USC, Charlton, on paper and even on record, is that they will come out and throttle USC this week, Charlton. This may be one of the worst beatings USC ever taken by Notre Dame at the Coliseum.
Wow, Big C. We have some top games that are important. Number 9, Central Florida at South Florida. Give me your thoughts, how important that is for Central Florida, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Central Florida went on and won that game today, Charlton, but they lost it. Heisman Trophy candidate Mackenzie Milton.
Yeah.
We all saw the leg break that Alex Smith suffered last week, Charlton, and Mackenzie Milton suffered one of those horrific injuries today, Charlton. So he's going to be gone, and his career may be threatened also after this injury. But Central Florida went on and won that game, Charlton. But I'm going to say that doused any hopes that they had of making the playoffs, because all the selection committee will say, well, he was the reason why we were looking at you from the start, even though you're undefeated for 2 years.
Wow, really thoughts and prayers with him. I hope he can have some type of a recovery going forward. Big C. Number 6, Oklahoma, and they're playing number 13, West Virginia. That's big for the Big 12. The winner of this has an outside shot. No, Oklahoma really has a better chance of getting to the college football Final Four, but they are playing this game at West Virginia. Should be a light-out game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, West Virginia does not have a chance of making the Final Four. The ironic thing about this game is that these teams will play each other in back-to-back weeks. They will play the game here ending the season, as well as they'll play each other in the Big 12 championship game. I see Oklahoma, Charlton, being in trouble tonight because Will Greer will just come out and let it fly. They're playing in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah.
Oklahoma defensive backs do not like to tackle. West Virginia likes to throw.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, the quarterback for Oklahoma, is going to have to put up at least 7 touchdowns tonight if they expect to win this game.
Yeah, that's a big performance he's going to have to put up. Big C, the Apple Cup in state of Washington, number 16 Washington at number 8 Washington State. Washington State has a chance to get in. Some things have to happen, of course, for them, but it's all there if they can take care of their part. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Washington State has the better team, Charlton. You think about Gunnar Minshew, the quarterback. he's lived up to all accolades, and he's a true Heisman candidate out there also in the Palouse, Charlton. But you know, this is a team that's 3 points away from being undefeated with an unfortunate loss down at USC earlier in the season, Charlton, where they didn't get an opportunity from the referees. Washington, you know, their band won't be attending this game, Charlton. One of the buses that were transporting their band flipped over with 47 passengers in it last night. So they may have some emotional downtrodden from some of the student body not being able to attend the game, Charlton. But this is a game that Washington State desperately needs. If the Pac-12 hopes to be looked at anywhere, Charlton, on the national stage, they have to win this game so you only have one loss in the conference.
That makes a lot of sense, Big C. I want to jump up to number 1, Alabama, and they're hosting Auburn, and that's the big Iron Bowl down south. You good old boys, all the moonshine and barbecue ribs should be overflowing, Big C. Bigger game for Alabama than people think, because you throw out all the rankings, you throw out all of who's going to be the favorite team. Sometimes these games are decided on emotion, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Charlton, this is a game that since 1940 has been laden with nothing but emotion, Charlton. The Iron Bowl for the state of Alabama, where so much iron ore was produced in that state. This is just one of those games that everybody comes to play, Charlton. And you, like you said, you throw the records out of the window if you're Auburn. This is a game about breaking Alabama's momentum. If there's anything that Auburn can do, Auburn has to throw the ball, Charlton. Just abandon the running game and just throw the ball. That's the only way that they're going to compete with Alabama, is they can hope that Jared Stidham can put up over 350 yards in the air, Charlton, at least 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's a big game. I love watching that game. Been watching it for a long time, even though I'm on the West Coast. South Carolina at number 2, Clemson. Clemson looks like a solid number 2. Some people say they're a solid number 1, but it's all going to be decided on the field. Give me your thoughts on South Carolina. Do they have any hope when they play against Clemson, especially if the good old boys from Clemson touch the rock? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Clemson got off to a slow start last week, Charlton. They only had 3 points in the first quarter. Then Trevor Lawrence came alive at quarterback. They have a lot more offensive weapons in Clemson than what they have in South Carolina, Charlton. But when we talk about rivalry games, this is the Alabama-Army game. That's what you have with Clemson and South Carolina, Charlton. You have that in-state rivalry. So many players know each other personally that this game may get out of hand physically. You know, with some extracurricular
I
stuff.
Understand.
But Clemson is the dominant team between these two.
That's a good game for people to watch. Big C, maybe the biggest game, just because of the history of it, in the Big Ten Conference. You have number 4 Michigan at number 10 Ohio State. Ohio State has dominated that conference over the last decade. They've dominated Michigan over the last decade. There's something about this game that is must-see TV no matter what region of the country you live in. Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh, Big C, who do you like in this game?
Well, Charlton, this is the year that rivalry should end up being what it should have been for the past decade. You know, that you have 2 well-balanced teams, Charlton, both coming in with 1 loss. You have a great quarterback in Haskins at Ohio State. You have a top-ranked defense in the conference in Michigan. And one of these have to gear, Charlton. Can Haskins continue the plight that he's had? He's had 3 400 passing yard games this year, Charlton. Michigan started off sluggish. They've gotten better. Patterson has improved at quarterback. Higdon has become a solid running back, Charlton. Ohio State defensively has struggled. This could come down to the last possession of the game, Charlton.
That should be great football to see, especially this weekend. You have Iowa 31, Nebraska 28, Ohio 49, Akron 28, Buffalo 44, Bowling Green 14. You had Toledo 51, and then Central Michigan University 13. Couple other games that are out there, Big C. Memphis 50, Houston 31, and a shootout. That was a game that had a lot of action in it. We wish everybody the best in college football over this weekend, but I do want to jump up and ask you as we close out this Thanksgiving holiday, this beautiful Black Friday event, when we look at some of the NBA action coming up, Big C. In the NBA division leaders in the Eastern Conference, Toronto Raptors 15-4, Milwaukee Bucks 13-4. Give me your thoughts on who do you like most out of the East, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you talk about those 2 teams right there, everyone said Boston at the beginning of the season because of the young players that they had. I felt that they would put Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward back in the offense into the starting lineup and break the continuity that Boston had at the end of last season that allowed them to go on that run to the Eastern Finals.
Yeah.
And that's what they did as a team. You looked at the Bucks in up and coming with Anastukas, being an outstanding player.
Yeah.
And then Toronto added in Kawhi Leonard. Those two teams, Charlton, I think will battle it out. Philadelphia is still a year away from being mature enough to be a push in the East.
Yep. When we look at the West, Western Conference, Memphis Grizzlies, what? 12-5, Portland Trailblazers 12-6. I know we think about Golden State. I know we think about Houston. Give me your thoughts on the West, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, it's really not about who wins the West. When you look at Memphis, I mean, this is a team that, as the past couple of seasons, they've suffered injuries throughout the season that have knocked them out of contention.
Yeah.
They're playing well. They got Mike Conley back at point guard. When you look at Portland, they made a couple moves in the offseason.
Yeah.
They've always been that third, fourth team in the West. But as we saw last year, Houston dominated the West, Charlton. No one is talking about Houston not being in the lead. All the conversation is about Golden State not being in first place.
Yeah.
They weren't in first place last year and they won a championship, Charlton.
Very good point. Tonight's NBA schedule: Houston at Detroit, Boston at Atlanta, New Orleans at New York, Cleveland at Philadelphia, Washington at Toronto, San Antonio at Indiana, Miami at Chicago, Charlotte at Oklahoma City, Phoenix is at Milwaukee, Orlando's at Denver, Portland's at Golden State. They really got to get back on track. Utah is at LA. Big C, when Curry comes back, does Golden State, the land of vibranium, solve their problems? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's going to take a few games for him to get back in the swing. I mean, he's probably going to miss at least another week and a half to 2 weeks of the NBA season. This is early. As everybody knows, the NBA really doesn't start until after Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
That's when things kicks in. But when you look at the Golden State Warriors, Charlton, they have a lineup that's always capable of going on a run, winning 10 to 15 games. And when you do that, you solve a lot of problems in the NBA. I mean, you lose 4 games as the Golden State Warriors, you don't go into panic mode, Charlton. If you lost 14 games in a row, then you would.
Makes sense, Big C. Speaking of panic mode, we have Tiger Woods, we have Phil Mickelson, Las Vegas, Silver Creek Golf Club, $9 million up for grabs. Not a lot of money for those guys, but $9 million is a lot of money for a lot of people, especially on this Black Friday. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you break that down, Charlton. That's $500,000 a hole.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm sorry.
So you can do a little bit of Black Friday. The only bad thing about Silver Creek Golf Course is that this is a golf course, Charlton, that wasn't built for fans. So they don't have the fairways where you can track people in. That's why there won't be any gallery at this golf tournament. Beautiful golf course, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's going to be an outstanding night. We will find out what choke means like.
Choke. I think choke is something you do around your neck, Big C. But we love everybody in the sports universe, and I hope that everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. And I do want to say that no matter where you are, what you're going through, our thoughts and prayers are always with you, especially the California fire victims. I do want to take the time again to say congratulations to Big C, winning $520 million, being chosen the sexiest man in the universe, beating out some close contestants, Big C. Boris Kodjoe, Tyson Beckford, Michael B. Jordan, Prince Harry, The Rock, Donald Trump, and Clint Eastwood. Donald still wants to recount Big C, but I don't think he's going to get it with all those asshole countries. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Charlton, I wish that America would hold some of the passion that they have in sports for those who are less fortunate. Lend a hand, reach out, give something, a meal, some spare change, Charlton, to those that are less fortunate. We've seen the fires and devastation that have affected communities, Charlton. We have Americans living in those conditions every day. It doesn't take much. Make a sandwich when you leave the house. Put it in a brown bag with a bottle of water. You'll pass by a stoplight, an off-ramp on the intersection where somebody's there that's hungry. Think about those who don't have. We think about all those in the world of sports that have everything, Charlton. But those that don't even have a television to enjoy the world of sports, let's give them a little bit of consideration here for the holidays.
Very well said, Big C, and we'll always give consideration, especially every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. right when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.